Good morning and Jai Hind. Welcome to National Security Live episode 5. When we think about national security, what comes to our mind? We just imagine soldiers, army, air force, the navy. We think of tanks, aircraft, missiles, even drones, and lot more fighter aircrafts. But as we know, the 21st century national security is no longer confined to the conventional warfare. Today, actually, we are going to discuss a very different kind of threat, a very non-military invasion, but possibly a very sudden crisis. We're gonna answer the questions like, could thousands, even tens of thousands of people can arrive in Indian border, in Indian border within days, maybe within hours, due to instability across the line of control, or maybe across the international border. Could we will actually explore, could immigration, it can become a strategic weapon itself? We will answer the questions like, can immigration itself become a weapon of hybrid warfare? Is India prepared if a sudden mass migration crisis emerges along its western front? So today's lecture is not about prediction. It is a strategic scenario analysis. It's based on international experience and even recent experiences. It is designed to help us think about various emerging unconventional security challenges. So let's begin with it. Before beginning, I would like to ask my viewers kindly switch into 1.5x for better experience. So why we are thinking of Morocco Spain crisis, the crisis that has been happening in Ceuta, migration crisis in Morocco, where thousands, maybe 50 to 60,000 people had swum across the strait, that is Strait of Gibraltar. They have swum through that strait and entered the Spanish territory, that is Ceuta. So, where is Ceuta? Why does Spain have territory in North Africa? How actually thousands of migrants entered Ceuta over very short period? It's not happening now. It also happened in past, in 2021. Similar situation happened. How diplomatic situation surrounds the events, how Italy has closed its border, and France has closed to the Schengen visa process, also gone through various shake-up, particularly in the case of Italy, as the Italian leadership uh, announced it. So the security, humanitarian, and political dilemmas that we are going to follow from this Morocco-Spain migration crisis. From national security point of view, we gotta analyze it like such type of border crisis begin not with armed conflict, but when a large number of people actually cross the border in very short duration. So as we all know about this Morocco Spain crisis in Ceuta, the Ceuta migration crisis of July 2026. Let's go to what is weaponized migration. How migration can be weaponized actually. We need to think about think of the concept. What is weaponized migration? Let's think that it actually describes situation in which migration flows are actually deliberately encouraged, or it is actually exploited to create a political, to create a diplomatic and security pressure to the other country. It I don't know how it happened in Ceuta, but let's think that if it happens in a deliberate plan, and it may happen to Indian context also. for example, in previous year, during the crisis, during the protest at Bangladesh, we have seen that bulk number of Bangladeshi immigrants actually gathered in the Indo-Bangladesh border, and they tried to break the fence. They tried to come over India in bulk numbers, and our border security force has to go through a lot more stress and a lot more what can I say, it was a very much difficult scenario, even a humanitarian scenario at that time. So even though number was not significantly high at that time, if something happened by a deliberate push, if such things happen in our Western Front, by a design, by a strategic design, as similar thing as some unrest is happening along our Western Front in Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir, the unrest is happening. If this any immigration crisis like Ceuta crisis happen by deliberate design to Indian border, how we will handle it? So India at present actually doesn't face such a Morocco Spain type migration crisis in western border. This is a scenario planning. If India faces it, how India should respond. Strategic planning actually requires government to prepare for various possibilities before it become realities. So we have to think about it. This is one kind of scenario that if it happens like that, if our Western Front, from maybe through LOC, maybe through international border, thousands of tens of thousands, maybe lakh of immigrants if gather there in the front from the other part of the so-called border, what would happen, how our forces would respond, how our government will respond? That's a big deal. We have to think about it. From I think this is a template that we should learn from Ceuta. We should learn from the Spain Moroccan immigration crisis. We should learn from it. We have had our example during the Bangladesh protest, during if we can term as Bangladesh crisis. We had something similar happened, but in a very miniature scale, if I can term it very small scale. But our forces, the BSF, has handled it very carefully. But if it happens in large scale, how our forces would handle it? That's the scenario planning. If it happens, if thousands of lakhs of protesters comes, how our government will respond, how our citizenry will respond, how the society would respond. That's the thing. Now if we go to the geographical area of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, or POK, including Gilgit-Baltistan, uh, we have geographical importance of that region. Even both the countries have geographical importance of this region, since it is a very strategic location. It is due to even connectivity, and there are demographic factor also. There are various security and environment. Both the countries have fought around 4 wars, maybe more than 4 actually. Due to these reasons, we have border conflicts. So Indian constitutional position that region is also part of former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. So both the countries actually claim that part of Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Let's not go into it, but there are reports of protest, the mass scale unrest in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, in that region, and there are reports of, even government report, Pakistani government reports of tens of people have been killed by the security forces, and unverified and unconfirmed media reports suggest that even hundreds of people had been killed by such unrest. Even that such type of unrest has gone into violence too. So such uh, if such conflict turns into a mass movement, and if it turns into an immigration movement, as in social media we can see a lot more people from that particular moment actually appealing India to help, if it goes more deeper, and if there come a strategic push from Pakistan or from another country to use this immigration as a strategic weapon against India to make an artificial border crisis along that border, it's a matter of big deal, and we need to prepare. We need to get prepared for it, and that is what. And for that, we need to understand what is going on in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and how this conflict have potential to evolve into a immigration crisis. Let's go with a hypothetical scenario now. Imagine a large-scale unrest, the unrest which is going on there in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. If it goes very large-scale due to anything, due to maybe government crackdown, due to external influence, due to the internal grievances of the people, maybe due to mass atrocities. We have seen such atrocities by our neighboring country in erstwhile East Pakistan. They actually did very much atrocities during 1970 or in 1971, which led to partition of Pakistan into East Pakistan, that is Bangladesh, and West Pakistan, which is present-day Pakistan. Okay. So I'm sorry, it's actually raining here, and the sound may come a bit with disturbance. I'm sorry for that. Please switch into 1.5x if you want to experience this better. Anyway, as we have seen that such atrocities were done by our neighboring country to its own citizens on around 1970 and 1971, and it may happen with their citizens or their so-called citizens in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir area. And if it happens like this, if there is a large-scale unrest emerges, and which may lead to even economic collapse, and if, let's imagine, there can be even a natural disaster which may accompany or which may fuel it too. Like we have seen a lot more earthquakes. There are examples of a lot more earthquakes there in that particular region. So if a natural disaster also fuels that to the large scale unrest with economic collapse, while there have been breakdown of local administration, breakdown of law and order situation in that area, in such situations, if thousands of civilians begin moving towards the safer areas, if they think that the Kashmir side in which is controlled by India now, the Kashmir side, the Indian side is much safer than the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Okay, the actual Kashmir is actually more safer, and if they feel like that, and if they come to India in bulk number, what would happen? How our security forces would react? How our government would react? How the villagers there would react into that? So this is very much a big deal. We need to think about this from a strategic point of view, from a scenario planning, and we need to build responsive mechanism towards that. So India's security challenges are already there with various border management scenarios, with terrorism, with even illegal immigrations, even though there are very less illegal immigration through that border, but there are various conflicting scenarios also. There are drug trafficking scenarios and other scenarios also. But what scenario that we have planned actually, or actually we imagine that in such a mass migration moment scenario, how will our forces respond to that? Just think about it. Do we have a plan from government side how our forces would respond to that? Will we have some humanitarian obligation regarding that? Do we have to accept them, or do we have to just push them backward? Do we have enough border fences? Do we have enough the border fencing mechanisms, or hardware fences which may actually prevent large-scale immigrations to come inside the actual Indian territory? Do we even have some screening and identity verification mechanism in such border areas? Whether our multi-layered intelligence agencies and multi-layered security apparatus, whether we are ready to handle such situations? Do we have enough medical support? Yes, in such scenarios, we may need to provide certain medical support to certain people across the border. Let's imagine about it, okay? So do we have enough medical and paramedic infrastructure ready with our forces, maybe with our civil administration? Do we have such medical infrastructure and medical help ready? Whether our MDRF or a state SDRF would get involved in such situation, whether they need to involve in such a mass migration situations, whether they are actually trained to involve in such situation. That's a big deal. Can we make some temporary shelter? And why we need to make any temporary shelter in this side of border, in Indian side of border? Do we have any mechanism to make any shelter or build some shelters in that side of Kashmir? So this is a big deal. We actually have very much experience from the COVID template regarding the large scale building of large scale temporary shelter building. I'm sorry. But can we copy that template with such emergency? Can we copy templates from various flood relief and various disaster management techniques, or various such templates from other parts of India, from other crises to that similar humanitarian crisis or any kind of humanitarian or immigration crisis on around that border? Whether our administration is ready for that, whether forces are ready for that. Are we trained? Whether our forces, including BSF, including the armed forces, even the National Disaster Relief Force or NDRF, whether they are ready for that? And most importantly, whether NDRF, the National Disaster Relief Force, and State Disaster Relief Force, are they mandated to respond to such crises? Whether their acts and their SOP are amended in a way that they would certainly react. Whether there is any force who is specialized to actually handle such type of mass migration crisis. Do we have enough logistics? Do we have enough logistical powers? Like we can say the ASC, that is Army Services Corps, is a huge logistical agency. Okay. Similarly, BSF also have logistical agency. NDRF also have logistical agency. But pertaining to such event, if such events happen, do we have such logistical agency? Do we have similar food stocks? Do we have stock? How we will react? How NDRF will react? Or any agency similar to NDRF will react? That's a big question, right? And coming to another front, that is information warfare. In such situation, there are huge information, okay, huge information flowing. Not only normal, not only good information, but as we have learned, misinformation would be flowing, disinformation would be flowing, and malinformation will be flowing. Do we have actual mechanism to deal with such information? Let's say the Ceuta incident or the Ceuta immigration crisis, there are some news that it actually happened due to some disinformation campaign by certain state-sponsored or by certain agencies, whether state-sponsored or some agency-sponsored agency. We are not going into that. It's a matter of research and investigation. But we have found that due to some July or due to some June order by Supreme Court of Spain, they have said that if some immigrants come through the sea route, if they come through by swimming over, and they are not actually, in a simple language, they are not actually obligated they are not to be deported on the first hand. They have to go through various processes, and which may lead to the situation where such immigrants may, or such person may get retained in the Spanish territory. Okay, so in such situation, there where this information or this court order by Supreme Court of Spain actually, as report says, actually it got twisted, and there were various deliberate messages on the social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and other platforms, where people were informed in mass scale that Spain actually welcomes immigration in mass scale. And even though this information, people has viewed it. Until there is any strategic communication from the Spanish side, the damage had happened. Thousands of people, report says in between 50 to 60,000 people have crossed, and they actually overpowered the police in Ceuta. They overpowered even the military, which was later deployed by the Spanish authorities. So this all happened from information in social media. If such information warfare, or if such information template gets spread in Indian social media, in across both sides of Kashmir, in this side of Kashmir, and also in Pakistan-Occupied Kashmir, which may compel someone that let's say, if there is a message that India is receiving all the Kashmir, okay, along with the territory, the people would also people are also permitted to come inside India. If such message comes, thousands of people, lakhs of people in Spain, in Morocco Spain border, it came in thousands, but in our scenario in Kashmir, it will come in lakhs, it will come in tens of thousands. So how do we handle such information warfare? Do we have enough strategic communication template? Do we have enough fast strategic communication methodologies to handle such information warfare? Sorry. So that's a big deal. We need to think about that. Our government, our agencies, our think tank actually need to work on that. Even how we will handle diplomatic implication out of this. There will be diplomatic implication, including repercussions, including statements from UN and various humanitarian rhetoric. If I may use the word humanitarian rhetoric, there would be like various humanitarian speech from various countries that immigrants should be accepted by India, and something like that. And how would India respond to such situation? How would India diplomatically respond? Do we have better responsive mechanism? Do we have better information warfare mechanism? Do you have better diplomatic communication or strategic communication mechanism? So this is what our security challenge is. To design a security infrastructure, to train our forces, to train our agencies to handle such type of crisis is a big deal for us. So this is what India's security challenge is, from border management to humanitarian obligation, to screening and identity verification along the border area, to intelligence concerns, to multi-layered intelligence, to medical support, even building of temporary shelter along the border, or maybe logistic support, and lastly, the most important factor is information warfare and diplomatic implications. How we will handle this? So this is a very big deal. I'm sorry for this sound. It's actually raining, but I'm sorry for that actually. Anyway, from security challenge, let's go with the design. How our archival advisory can exploit such a situation. If we do not have such security infrastructure who can handle such mass influx of immigrants, how can our adversary can exploit such a situation, and how they can even make it a strategic weapon? how immigration can be weaponized by them. This is a big deal. How can we have to think that they can spread misinformation by deliberate design. They may attempt infiltration by state-sponsored means, by the help of their military, by the help of their agencies too, by the help of their technologies too. They can amplify panic among the Pakistani-occupied Kashmiri peoples. Okay, they can actually spread information and amplify panic through violence, through misinformation campaigns, and etc. And they can actually push them towards the border by a strategic design, by a weaponized strategy. They can use even propaganda. Okay, so this is a big deal. So this is what risk scenario is, and how we should respond to such a risk scenario. This risk scenario, from the template of Ceuta, from the template of Spain, Moroccan border, is something we need to think in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir along the India-Pakistan, so-called India-Pakistan border, and we need to think about it, how it can be a deliberate plan from our beautiful neighboring countries to weaponize migration, to overwhelm our forces through mass migration, through mass influx. So this is what it is. Our response, as we talk about, we have the force of the largest paramilitary force, that is BSF, Border Security Force. How would our Border Security Force is very much capable to guard, as it is called, first line of defense along that forest area, along the dense forest area, along the desert area, and along the waterfront, along the Harami Nala areas, and all the fronts there. Okay, they are actually trained, geographically trained, mentally and physically trained, also in the mountains and hills. But are they are trained in counterinsurgency? They are trained in trafficking, including drug trafficking and human trafficking, etc. Not human trafficking happens much, but drug trafficking and anti-drug operations, anti-insurgency operations, CICT ops. But are they, whether BSF is trained to handle such a mass immigration crisis? That's a matter we should actually think. Whether Indian Army is not actually at the first line of defense due to some it's by some United Nations regulations, but whether Indian Army who must respond, who has been responding since 1947, and whether our army is actually ready, and whether their preparedness, they are ever ready. Our army is ever ready, but are they applicable? Whether it is right to deploy army in such situations from legal point of view, from humanitarian point of view, that's a matter of concern too, as there are a lot more concerns from various humanitarian agencies regarding deployment of army by Spain, Department of Military Force by Spain, or deployment of harass measure, or use of force by the police and military authorities of Spain. That there has been a lot more hues and cry. So how our army would legally handle such issues? And most importantly, involvement of intelligence. Our intelligence, we have multiple intelligence in that zone. The gray system, how the gray system works in such a zone, and in such a scenarios, we would need to have intelligence working on the both side of the so-called border. We have to have our intelligence assets, including technical intelligence input present in both sides. Whether our intelligence bureau, whether our research and analysis wing and other intelligence agencies are ready. Yes, we know they are ever ready for a conflict with the military of Pakistan. They are ever ready with the cross-border terrorism. But are they ready to handle such a mass scale influx? Are they ready to handle such a mass scale immigration? That's a big deal. How state government, how the mechanism or civil administration from the state government would respond to it. And as we have mentioned, the NDMA, or that is National Disaster Management Authority, and their force, that is NDRF, National Disaster Management Force, also the state disaster response force, whether they are trained, and most importantly, whether they are legally mandated to handle such migration situations. We don't have a particular force for handling such migration situations. Like in the United States, we have they have some forces like ICE or something else. In some other countries, they have some particular force for immigration handling, but we don't have such a force, as per my knowledge. But how National Disaster Response Force or how NDMA would handle it, along with VSF, Indian Army, intelligence agencies, etc. Next, about technical surveillance, how our technical surveillance will work on it, whether we are ready. We see in during Operation Sindoor, we have a very fantastic, we have a beautiful shield integrating all the components from S400 to other technical stuff. I'm not going into technicality into it, but we have seen we have a very beautiful shield. But whether it's gonna work in a crisis scenario, how we will technically respond, how our integrated check post, how our check post integrates technology, how we coordinate such a huge crisis, that's a big deal. And this is how we need to prepare. We need to see the scenario, and we need to train our forces in a mass scale, because in such situations there need to be a mass involvement of forces, not just a single force, not just a single agency would be able to handle such a mass crisis. We would need coordination of all the forces present there, and that's the template. We need to design a template to counter such a migration crisis, which may be actually deliberately pushed from that side of border. That's a big deal. So as we have also learned about information warfare, in such crisis, information warfare having a big stake. There can be fake videos or fake violence videos which can be circulated, or AI generated images and videos from other parts of the country or other parts of either Pakistan or India can be narrated as happening there in that particular time. As malinformation, it can spread, and it can take place, it can spread like rumor in very fast. Like there can be deep fakes and false, there can be false casualty claims. When media amplifies it, when social media amplifies it becomes very large. Okay, so if there are, let's say, if there are claims of false border crossing, if it says that some people are claiming that through a certain border route or through a certain route some people are crossing from that side of Kashmir to this side, to mainland India, and a lot more people will move to that particular crossing point. And how a particular unit of BSF or military will handle such a large crowd from that particular point, that's a big deal, and we need to think about it. Lastly, from the viewpoint of international law, like we have a lot more conventions. We are not going into deep into the conventions on refugees, conventions of asylums, various humanitarian principles, and even also principles of state sovereignty, and various laws of border controls, how these will apply. So how countries will even respond. Various countries will open their mouth through diplomatic channel, even through news. UN will open their mouth in such situations, and how we will counter them, how we will respond with regard to the international law or international humanitarian law or international migrations law, how India would respond into that. We have to think about it as a counter to a deliberate template or the weaponization of migration template by our beautiful neighboring country. So from the Ceuta crisis of Morocco-Spain border along the Strait of Gibraltar, The lesson for India is we have to prepare before crisis. We have had crisis as a small example, or in a very small number, in Indo-Bangla border last year, even in previous year, during the protest during the violence protest in Bangladesh. So if it happens in large scale in that part in our western front, we have to prepare before that. We need strong intelligence input. Our intelligence need to focus on that too, as our intelligence is already focusing on counterterrorism, the infiltration and military activities across the border. We need to also focus on information on such deliberate plans, if there are such plans, if someone is designing with such plans to come across the border, and if there is actually such a design of weaponization of migration by our beautiful neighboring state agencies. So this is how. And next thing, we need to remember whether we have enough border infrastructure, like whether the border fences actually capable of handling. Do we have enough technology implied in such in the border fences to detect such migrations, or detect such mass movement? Do we have, most importantly, a strategic crisis communication model to handle such situation? Do we have a counter misinformation model to counter such a sudden and large scale migration scenario? That's a big deal. And lastly, coordination among civil and security agency is very much crucial in such situation. Coordination of union government, state government, the army, the BSF, the state police, intelligence agencies, NDRF, and all other agencies are very much important in such a hypothetical scenario. So we must plan for this. In conclusion, we can say that as traditional national security, which is about just normal wars, maybe intelligence war even, but normal war, or even terrorism, counter-terrorism, etc., maybe insurgency, maybe internal security, maybe cross-border terrorism also, if as we are talking about border. But in today's time, in hybrid warfare time, the traditional security is the national security actually is not about just winning wars. We have to make templates how to prevent any type of crisis, like sudden influx crisis. We have to protect our people and prepare for anything and everything which can be unexpected. The Morocco-Spain experience actually remind us that the borders actually, it can be tested in ways that actually don't involve tanks or missiles. Our borders are mainly tested by cross-border firing, by infiltration, by missile exchange, or maybe by tanks in large-scale situations, even by fighter jets also. But if it is tested through immigration, through large-scale immigration, are we ready for that? If it is tested through misinformation and humanitarian emergencies, how we will deal with such future national security scenario? So we have to go with demand, foresight. We have to go with resilience and coordination. The strongest nations actually not are those who merely react after what happens, like that we see in the case of Spain and neighboring states in around Spain. The strongest nations actually not those who merely react after the incidents. The strongest nations are those who prepare for any kind of incidents, including this scenario of weaponization of migration. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I would like to again request our viewers kindly watch in 1.5x all my national security live videos. Please do in 1.5x for your better experience. And here I end the scenario planning for for any situation like Spain-Morocco like situation across Indo-Pakistan border. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel and share this video. And I know I don't edit videos, you may not actually like it, but just go through its content through 1.5x, and I'm sure that you would like the content, you would like the scenario planning, you would like the imaginary situations, and my I would not say advice, but our discussion as how India should prepare to such a situation, how we should train our forces, and how we should make everything possible, the coordination possible from intelligence to army to BSF, paramilitary and civil administration, including NDRF, how and SDRF, how we should train them, and how we should respond collectively to such a immigration crisis in large scale if it appears. Thank you for watching in good numbers, and if you have any question, please write in the comment box, or if you have any request and that I make video on certain topics of national security, I would be happy to learn from you. Please write on the comment box, and I will be discussing as per your query. Thank you very much. Jai Hind and Bande Mataram.